a PhD, and a law degree. I don't
Wow.
know anybody else that has every one of those degrees.
And a pilot's license.
And a pilot's license,
Yeah, the
absolutely
pilot's
right.
Pretty
And,
impressive.
and as
Which I brought with me.
And with that, you know, I think that when I learned that she was a pilot, I just thought we have to, you know, hear about, you know, when, you know, what her flying experiences were. And, oh my gosh, there it is. Now, did they still number them? Do you have a numbered one or your social security number?
Probably.
Because, no,
Number
you have a number.
3708,
Wow.
airman's license number 3708.
Oh my God.
Isn't that incredible?
Wow.
That
So,
is
and so
incredible.
that is the number, so you were the three, I mean, that was literally, I mean, they just started like with
They started with
1,
one.
2,
Mhm.
3,
Wow.
4. So you were the 3,708
God.
person
Pilot
in
in
the
the
United
US.
States who got a license.
Wow.
This is May 1, 1949.
Wow.
I thought I'd gotten it in 48, but I must have gotten it in 49.
Wow.
Well, I was at a dinner with Polly, and as we were talking about this, I said, you know, and then I said, well, you know, why did you learn to fly? And she said, well, you know what, my parents they told me many things I couldn't do, but they never told me I couldn't fly. So with that, I mean, we're so happy you can be here with us today. And I think that you were just interested in hearing what led you to flying and where you flew and the types of aircrafts and just whatever you want to bring up about your flying career. And did it ever have an impact on when you were a judge? I mean, or as it led toward that even, have you ever had a case or, yeah, I was thinking about things like that if there was anything that ever had an impact like that. But with that, I'll let you just begin wherever you want to begin. You can throw that in if you want to.
Well, you know, you've reminded me, and I hadn't really thought about it or focused on it, but were you an air traffic controller at the time of the strike?
That's an interesting story. No, I was not in the FA at the time. I was in the Air Force, and it was 6 months before my enlistment was up. The whole point of my going into the Air Force was to get training, because when I was in high school, I was a clerical aide in a control tower, and all those guys had come through the Air Force basically, or for the military, and so that's the route I chose to get to where I wanted to be. And so I went in, and the strike happened, and then 6 months later I got out, which actually opened the door quite a bit for me to get in. You still had to, you know, make minimum qualifications and all that stuff, but you know, they were still needing a lot of people, so that did help me to get in.
Isn't that interesting? Because very soon after I became a judge in 1984, we got 3,000 cases in our court. Our court was the court of claims, all claims against the government, from the air traffic controllers that President Reagan had fired.
Wow.
And all of those cases were in our court throughout the nation. And we all, of course, sat on them. We got all of the appeals. They'd all been through a trial before. And by the time they got to us was just at the time that I started out as a judge.
Wow.
So I sort of got to know a little more about air traffic controllers and how they work and all else. And in fact, some of those cases still kind of, everything drags on in the courts. And a lot of the issues with the controllers going back, and was he entitled to fire them in the first place? And then what happened, plus all the reasons, and everyone had a different argument. So that was very interesting. Well, that's a long story too.
So what was the outcome? What was the outcome? It was legal for him to do it.
The question was whether, the basic question was whether the president was entitled to fire the air traffic controllers when they all had no strike clauses in their contracts. That was what it turned on. That, but for the no strike clause, and they struck anyway, as to whether he would or wouldn't have been allowed to. Then all of the appeals, the 3,000 or so appeals that came up, were people who said that they shouldn't have been fired, either because they were on vacation at the time that it was shut down, or one reason or another, and to figure out, of course, these were people who didn't want their livelihoods removed and didn't want to lose pensions and all of the other consequences of being fired from a government job. So the decisions went all over the map. Each one was sort of an
Yeah, they were an
individual
individual
case,
decision, yeah.
depending on
We had
the
one.
individual.
We had
Yeah.
one where I worked that came back, and
Yeah.
I think, I was trying to remember about that, I'm not sure, but I think there was a little bit of, I think anytime there was somebody that came back, there was a little bit of, but,
Yeah, there were a lot of tensions.
Right, a lot of
And
tensions.
those who stayed, of course, they got a lot of grief because they
Right.
stayed.
right.
And those who left got a lot of grief because they left.
Right, and this guy that came back, I think he had, part of it was that he had been, I think, a local officer in the
In that
union, in that
Yeah.
shop, so, I don't know. I don't remember.
There was a lot